What are the 5 common ways we can connect to the spiritual world? Hey guys, it is Ashley here from the awakenstate.net, here with another episode in our summer series, giving you quick punches, quick little spiritual growth lessons in our new series. Now, today I really wanted to discuss what are the 5 common ways that we can connect to the spiritual world. Now, this is something that comes up a lot within questions in our community, and most importantly, just client questions. I hear a lot of I lost my spiritual self. I don't know how to connect my practical reality, my practical job, my career, and so forth to my spiritual self. And there's this miscongruence between understanding our spiritual self and understanding our physical self. And here at the Awaken State, we are all about learning how to teach you to bridge the gap between your spiritual self and your physical self. So I thought it'd be a really great way to just really discuss what happens here when we look at what are the 5 common ways that we can personally connect to the spiritual world. So if you'll join me now, we're going to discuss exactly that. Stay tuned. Hey there guys, it is Ashley from the awakenstate.net and here with Awaken and Manifest Your Best Life. Okay, so here, let's just dive right into it, okay? Fuck the introductions. Well, when it comes to looking at what are the 5 common ways that we can connect to the spiritual world, I want you to just conceptualize here a minute. There are so many different ways that you can connect to the spiritual side of who you are. And often I think we can kind of pigeonhole the way that we can connect to the spiritual world, or worst case scenario, we believe that it's really separate from who we are. And a lot of this is due to conditioning. A lot of this is due to growing up with an understanding of either suppressing our intuition, kind of getting bogged down with religious dogma, or even just feeling as if, spiritual world is way over here and I'm way over here. And there's this misaligned kind of perception of my spiritual self has to be separate from who I truly am. And if you're coming at it from that lens, connecting to the spiritual world might be really hard for you. It might be hard for you to realize that there's very common ways where you can start to connect deeper to the spiritual side of you, and so forth. So I want to dive into just that. So what are the 5 common ways that we can connect to the spiritual world? Now, again, I just want to mention that these are the 5 common ways that we can connect to the spiritual world. That is not to say that there aren't other ways, because I think it's important to say that honestly, we are always connected to the spiritual world. But if we're having a hard time, if it's difficult for us, or if it's just we're coming from this mentality of where I feel like I lost my spiritual self, these are the most common ways to start to get back to that person. Okay, let's dive in. Okay, so what's the first one? The first one is channeling. When it comes to looking at how do we connect to the spiritual world, oh my gosh, channeling is a godsend because it allows you to get out of the monkey chatter and really dive deep into your subconscious mind, the connection between who you are as a conditioned person and who you are as a spiritual, intuitive person. Channeling offers us a lot of beauty because it allows us to connect verbally or mentally or even physically with our spiritual self. Now, what are some ways we can do channeling? A lot of channeling is usually automatic writing or automatic speaking. Now, automatic speaking can get a little bit scary for some people, especially as they're developing their own gifts, such as light language, for example, and so forth. And it can also be more like riddle if you're not used to it. A lot of times when I first started learning how to channel, a lot of it came off in terms of poetic and very kind of out there, almost as if I was writing song lyrics. And I didn't quite understand it because I was still working on healing my throat chakra and really kind of deciphering those messages. Now, when it comes to looking at the ways that I personally love channeling, I think automatic writing is a beautiful way to help you connect to channeling. The number one reason for this is because when we allow ourselves to get into a state of automatic writing, it allows us to release the ego and really drop in fully to what our subconscious, what our soul, what our intuition wants to tell us. And it's a beautiful way to connect back into intuitive guidance. So, for example, in the meditation lab, I have you go through a meditation, and then we often connect to journaling. One of the best ways to really connect into channeling, if you have a hard time with all this monkey chatter, you want to do like a meditation and then do an automatic writing session. If you have a lot of noise and a lot of like ego talk, the best thing you can ever do for yourself is like do some square breathing, long deep breathing, pranayama style, and then do like a short journaling session of just letting yourself do a stream of consciousness writing and see what happens, because you might surprise yourself with the answers. Now, what's the second thing? The second thing I want to say that is way more common and might even be your first introduction to the spirit world is divination. Divination such as oracle cards, tarot cards, runes, and so forth. These more ritualistic kind of practices are a beautiful way to connect to the spirit world because it allows us to kind of strengthen our intuition. I believe that one of the strongest ways to help you really accelerate your gifts is finding ways to accelerate and strengthen your intuition. Now, divination is one of the most beautiful ways to do this because it's very easy. It's about, learning how to read tarot cards or learning how to do oracle cards and so forth. And it allows you to do kind of more of a question and answer mentality of where it's like, I still feel pretty safe in exploring this realm, but I'm allowing myself to just go a little bit out of my comfort zone by investing in like oracle cards or, the tarot deck, for example. And while tarot is a little bit more of has a learning curve, it's a beautiful way to help you strengthen your intuition because as you learn the different cards and you learn the different archetypes behind those cards, you start to have your own intuitive interpretation and it helps strengthen your intuition. Now, why is this a beautiful way to connect to the spirit world? Well, for one, it offers so many more opportunities for you to strengthen your intuition. Because when you look at how basically all these card reading abilities, a lot of it is about empowering your intuition. So, for example, if you have a really hard time with card reading, it's probably because you need to strengthen your intuition and you need to more so work on, okay, I can develop more self-trust. I can develop more self-confidence in my intuitive abilities and so forth. This is one of the things we strongly teach in our membership is in the Soul Aligned Life Academy. We talk a lot about how can you personally strengthen your intuitive gifts. And we go through different ways such as channeling and connecting more with that ritualistic side of ourselves because this is what helps us connect to the spirit world. And so, for example, doing moon rituals or allowing yourself to take time out of your day to do an intuitive practice such as intuitive writing or connecting with meditation or having your own personal spiritual practice. These are all beautiful ways where you can step more into that spiritual side of you. Divination is the same way because it allows us to connect more to that symbolic, like almost like that more right brain side of you because you're learning how to interpret symbolism. You're learning how to connect more to archetypes, more of this more like right brain focused personality of who you are instead of just focusing on more of that logical side, which is more of that ego, that more like left brain side of you. And a huge step of this is learning more about right brain activities, such as looking at the cards and interpreting them with your own intuition. What's the third thing? The third one is meditation. Now, meditation is the most common way to connect to the spiritual world. And there is various forms of meditation depending on how deep you want to go. And when we look at meditation, we normally just consider that it's about pranayama breathing, square breathing, long deep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, and sitting in silence. Now, the way I approach meditation is way different because I think it's important to allow your mind to go on a mental journey. Because when you allow yourself to go deeper into the subconscious, you're connecting more to that spiritual side of you, whereas it's no longer separate from who you are. It's no longer a journey of like, okay, I'm over here, spirit's over here. In order to get over there, I always have to meditate and try to achieve something that's outside of me. And meditation allows you to realize that actually these two things are interconnected as one. And when you meditate, you find yourself merging more and more and more with your higher self. And so I always like to say meditation is a great tool if you're learning how to develop your relationship to higher self, because it allows you to authentically connect to that person within you. And so if you grew up suppressing your intuition, if you grew up really being afraid of your gifts or your power, if you even just have a mentality of like where you have a lot of fear or uncertainty, maybe due to religious upbringing and so forth, where it's like the spirit world's evil, I couldn't attract evil entities and so forth. If that's where you're at, then having a slight, very mellow meditation practice will help so much with allowing you to just be like, it's safe, it's okay. I can connect to the spiritual side of me and nothing happens. And it allows you to kind of go deeper and deeper into this process of where you're really just connecting to your authentic self. You're learning how to connect to the subconscious mind of who you are. And so meditation allows us to kind of create not just a sense of peace or even just, enlightenment, as we would call it. It allows you to connect more to being present with who you are. And in the present moment of knowing who you are, you begin to realize that you are infinitely connected to your higher self. And one of the more beautiful gifts of meditation is it allows you to go on almost like an outcome-based journey, like one goal into reconnecting to higher self. And I think when we look at how meditation works as a whole, it also offers us a lot of unique ways that we can connect to the spirit world. Because with meditation, we can use it to connect to our angels, we can use it to connect to our guides, we can use meditation for healing, we can use meditation in a way just to relax and recalibrate our body. And I know in the past I've said, well, meditation isn't really the best tool for healing. Well, you know what? I do believe that. But I also believe that when it comes to reconnecting to your spiritual self, meditation is a great tool because it allows you to literally create spiritual alignment with connecting to higher self. And when we connect to higher self, we allow ourselves to access higher truths that we might have missed because we were in the limited mind. And not to go too far off on a tangent here, but if you've ever seen my video on the limited mind versus the higher mind, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because when you come at your awareness from the limited mind, you're only seeing your past conditioned self, whereas the higher mind sees from infinite possibilities. And meditation allows us to kind of still our mind and go into that headspace. And so that's why in the membership this month, we're doing Meditation Lab, which is built on a lot of beautiful, unique meditations. And that follows into the next working of how do we connect to the spiritual world is path working. Have you ever heard of this term before? Because I originally learned about path working from my Wicca background, actually. And now I know the religious people out there are going to be like, wait a minute, I want you to just hear me out. So path working originally, it comes more from a witchcraft background, to be honest. And over time, what I've learned about path working is that you can use it as a term of almost like shamanic journeying. And if you think about how the shamans, what they used to do is they would go on a vision quest. And so there would be a certain point of age where basically coming of age, and you go into a vision quest to seek answers from your ancestors and your spirit guides to basically know your place in the tribe. And over time, over the years, we've learned that we can use these vision quests as insight into our spiritual self and our more unconscious, I would say even more like our unconscious self, where we can literally go into the quantum for answers. Now, how path working works is you are simply going into a light state of trance, and then you go on a mental journey in your mind and seek answers or solutions or even just intuitive guidance on what you desire to achieve. So I always like to say the difference between a meditation and a path working is a meditation is more like an end, like has one particular goal and kind of a like almost like a foundation of like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to relax. I'm going to recalibrate my energy. I'm going for healing. I'm going, etc. And then when it comes to path working, we're actually going more on a mental journey where we have a begin gate and an end gate. And between those gates is where we receive information and we receive literally insight into the subconscious mind. So a path working can work beautifully in almost, what am I trying to say here? Path working can work beautifully with connecting deep within to our subconscious mind and giving us connection to the spiritual world so that we can receive potent answers, such as finding our higher self, talking to our higher self, connecting to our animal totem, connecting to spirit visitors, connecting to beings of the highest good and the highest light who are here to help us on our journey, such as, almost like an astral mastermind, where we are allowing ourselves to connect more to the spiritual world through our subconscious mind. And we're allowing ourselves to connect into this place in our mind where it's almost like a guided visualization, but a journey, almost like a storytelling, where we can allow ourselves for our imagination to fill in the gaps of what we truly need. So, for example, one of our meditation labs is about finding your animal totem. And you go on a journey into the forest where you connect to your animal totem and you find out what your animal totem basically needs to give you, and you get to find out what is your animal totem, what is the message they are here to give you, and how can you receive that vision of what they're there to give you. And so you kind of open your mind and your awareness to this place. Now, finally, when it comes to looking at our fifth one, what is the fifth one? The fifth one is altered states of consciousness through plant medicine or psychedelics. And this is one of the more it's a little bit more controversial ways where you can connect to the spirit world. It is not always as common because it obviously has its own risks and its own trial and errors. And I think it's important to emphasize that this is a really great way to connect to the spirit world, but it's not the be-all, end-all when it comes to learning how you can connect to the spirit world. There are many sober ways where you can connect to the spirit world that don't involve plant medicine and psychedelics and tryptamines and so forth. Now, of course, I've had my own dabbling experiences in all of these realms. And while I do think it's a beautiful way to connect to the spirit world, it is not always for everyone. And you have to really be prepared for it and really allow yourself the mental capacity to be prepared for it, because it can show you ego death and it can show you a lot of places in your mind that maybe you don't necessarily want to go. And so I think for a spiritual tool, it's just that. It's a spiritual tool to connect to the inner workings of your mind. I don't think it should be used recreationally the way it is, and I think it's important to respect the tool as much as you can when you explore these spaces. And ultimately, when it comes to looking at the spirit world, I think it's also important to emphasize that when we connect to these altered states of consciousness, we should be using a lot of discernment and care, and most importantly, allowing ourselves the beauty of the gift of going to those places. But now, here's the thing. I don't think it's necessary. There are easy ways where you can connect to the spirit world, such as having a daily spiritual practice, meditation, visualization, path working, automatic writing, channeling, speaking, automatic channeled speaking, and so forth, and divination. There are many different ways that you can personally connect to the spiritual world. And that's basically it. So those are the 5 common ways that you can connect to the spirit world. Is there a particular one that stood out to you? What is your favorite way to connect to the spirit world? I would love to know, what are your own favorite ways to connect? Is there a way that I didn't listed that you want to share with our audience? Definitely leave that in the comments for us. Okay. So, guys, I am about ready to go on vacation. So, I'm like, I am on pure vacation mode. So, if you are interested in what we got to offer in the meditation lab, I just want to give that a nice shout out because we're it's already released and we're going to add even more stuff as the months go by, because we're basically going to add this as a new addition to the monthly membership, the Soul Aligned Life Academy. The meditation lab is going to have all sorts of different path workings and meditations and visualizations to help you connect with your manifestation, to help you reconnect to the spirit world, sharpen your intuitive skills, and most importantly, have a soul aligned life. If you are interested in any of that, Meditation Lab is already open, so you can gain instant access when you enroll in the Soul Aligned Life Academy. I will leave all those links down below for you in the description. I would love to know what was your favorite spirit practice, and most importantly, if there was one I didn't cover, I'd love to know that as well. And I'll see you guys next time.